zone, let's say, and then we want 1 and 2, and also 24B. So that would read 24A, the following improvements must be installed on a mobile home lot. 1, a paved driveway and off-street parking pad at least 16 feet wide and 20 feet deep. 2, a 30-inch wide sidewalk from the mobile home entrance to the parking pad subject to placement of entrance decks. B, improvements required in item 24 shall not apply to model homes.
Okay.
The one question that I would have is if that conflicts with anything in the second edition, because it had slightly different language for a similar condition there. If there's a problem with that on the second edition, come back and tell us.
Okay. And so were those the only things then that you were adding in?
There was also the review in 1 year.
Okay. Got that?
I believe that was it.
All right.
You had raised the question about the utility installations. Take it you don't think that that's something as an ongoing issue?
No, Will made the remark about you might want to leave that in there because you don't want them to change it to above ground.
Actually, in my approach, we would have every single item in here except the ones that I said not to.
Okay.
And so, I mean, include certainly everything that you have, and, you know, my only problem is being able to go from these 2 documents to the 3rd document and be able to be accurate about what of those conditions are listed in the 3rd combined one and which aren't. And so here, let's do this. You have your motion that you have made, which I agree with all of that. And if I were to amend your motion in a friendly manner and just say that I want to ensure that all of the items from the initial number 1 conditional use permit and the 2nd edition conditional use permit, except for items, and this is from the 1st edition, items 1 and 2, and 6 and 7, and 18, those items, in my opinion, are not necessary, but I want to make sure that all the other items that are in 1 and 2 are represented in 3.
That's acceptable to me as a friendly amendment.
Okay. Acceptable. We're not going to try to repeat that again. And so, Mr. Nephew has made a motion, and it's seconded by Mr. Copen. Is there any additional discussion necessary on that?
Have to come to the podium.
You need to, come up here. Number 22, you're saying?
If you combine this into a single CUP for both editions and you limit the mobile homes to 246,
Correct.
it's going to create a problem.
Yeah, we should strike number 22.
All right, we'll strike that. Number 22 would also not be included.
Thank you. Yeah, we had that whole conversation about it.
This is about as messy as we can get it. Anybody,
Pretty unclear.
do you want us to try to repeat it again?
No.
Okay.
Please don't.
Are there any other questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? It's ayes all. All right, we're moving to unfinished business, which we have the White Bear Avenue County Road D Improvements Project 08-13, resolution adopting a revised assessment roll. And Mr. Thompson?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you recall, on September 27th, we held the assessment hearing for this project. At that meeting, all of the assessments were adopted, except for those with objections. At that meeting, we had a total of 12 objections. Staff has reviewed the objections, and at this time, we are recommending adopting the original proposed roll for each property with no adjustments. I do want to clarify, there was one objection that was given to the staff for the packet, and that's from the attorney at 3065 White Bear Avenue. So this was already an objection. This is just a second objection on the same property. So there's still a total of 12 objections. And I believe Mr. Auld does have an update on 5 of the properties that have objections.
Mayor and Council, as part of your recommendation this evening, I believe we have a resolution of the first 5 that are listed in your recommendations. And what we would like from you as part of the motion and resolution is to authorize us as staff to enter into settlement agreements with Azure Properties for parcels which are listed 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Council, those parcels, the assessments total just over $172,000. The new amount that we are agreeing to is $160,000, so a $12,000 reduction. That is covered within our project budget. And we would put together an agreement to settle, and the property owner, Azure Properties, has agreed to that amount. We just need to get it amongst each of the 5 different parcels in the exact dollars. So we would ask your approval of that amount with the final agreement approved by the city manager, city attorney, and myself.
So you want us to include that in our motion?
Sure. I'm
You're
not
making
sure that I
good
can make
motions
that kind of motion for you. I would try to clarify it by just saying authorizing the city attorney, city manager to execute a settlement agreement with Azure Properties for an amount of $160,000 for items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I thought we were, okay. We're doing it as a separate motion then.
Mayor and Council, the 2 items that you need to do, either order, you could do the motion first, which is approve the agreement. Second, then you should adopt the resolution. Either way, I think it's fine in the minutes.
All right, so Mr. Copen made a motion, which really is a motion to direct the staff to proceed with some settlement processes having to do with the Azure Properties. And Ms. Juniman, did you second that?
I did. Basically adopting the revised assessment rule with the
Well, but that isn't...
exceptions that, with the exceptions that Mr. Auld just talked about.
Right, but
And
so you seconded something more than I think Marv moved. In
I
that
thought he
only
said he
heard-
want...
I only heard a motion from Marv having to do with the Azure Properties thing. And so,
Sorry,
so you can second that, then we'll make another
All right,
motion having
fine.
to do with the assessment roll.
works for me.
And so,
Mr. Mayor,
yes, Mr. Nephew.
this is a procedural question on that. So will we remove them from the motion of the revised assessment roll as it's in the packet? Because currently the resolution in the packet denies all of their objections.
Mayor and Council, it is our suggestion to adopt the resolution as recommended by Mr. Thompson. Then, that you've also given us authority to enter into an agreement, but that agreement has not been finalized yet.
So, all right.
Either.
So are we backtracking now?
Thus, either
sense.
order is fine.
And so we just kind of have reversed the order slightly.
Right.
We work well backwards.
Okay, so we're going to take a vote having to do with the part of the motion that has to do with the directing the staff to continue with their efforts to settle the 1 through 5 parcels in our packet, which are all for Azure Properties. Any further discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? It's ayes all. Okay, so now we actually need a motion for the revised assessment roll.
So moved.
I move that we adopt the revised assessment roll.
I'm going
Second.
to give it to Kathy because she started. She just took a longer path.
Well, I got stomped on.
And we'll give the second to Mr. Nephew for the revised assessment roll. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? It's ayes all. Okay, then we move down to the Frost Avenue Bridge Replacement City Project 10-07, approval of bridge design aesthetics.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, the council will consider the bridge design aesthetics through selection of a couple concepts that we developed and worked with the commission and board on. Also selecting a facade option. You can see those three up here, and we'll go through a presentation with that. And also a selection of a design concept for the rest area or interpretive area that kind of commemorates the older bridge. Just some brief background. The staff has brought this item to the Community Design Review Board twice, first on April 27th and again on September 28th. This Community Design Review Board is in support of Bridge Concept 1. And again, instead of me going through each concept, I'm going to let the presentation by the consultants commence here. And then quickly, the Heritage Preservation Commission, it was brought to them 2 times also. On April 15th and again on September 16th. And essentially, just as a summary, there was 2 differences of thoughts at the board and the commission. The CDRB for the bridge, they selected concept 1, while the HPC selected concept 2. And then for the facade option, the CDRB selected the middle option, while the HPC selected the option on the left, or more accurately, they wanted us to replicate exactly what was out there with a custom casting. And then for the rest stop area or interpretive area, the CDRB liked concept B, while the HPC liked concept A. So we really have some different recommendations coming to you tonight, and I believe there is a representative from the board and the commission also here. But first, I'm going to have the consultant come up. Jerry, if you want to run through the development of the different photos and the concepts, that can give some background on the different decisions that the council should consider tonight.
And you are?
Jerry Burke with Emily Horn and Associates.
And did you say Jerry?
Jerry.
Gary.
Jerry.
Jerry, okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Getting deafer and deafer.
Okay.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Can we get that up? What we're going to do is go through some of the concepts that we. Thank you. Go through some of the concepts that we've presented before to the HPC and to the CDRB, and then also present the current bridge design that we're proposing. Concept 1 and Concept 2 are very similar. The difference in the bridge, the 2 concepts, is in the railing. And what we're showing here is the railing that's on the east side of the bridge, because that's the side where there is a trail, a sidewalk on that side as well, and because of the code requirements, there's a need for a taller railing there that's 4.5 feet above the sidewalk, which puts it a little bit over 5 feet above the road surface. On here, Concept 1 has a metal railing on top of a concrete base that's going to have a form liner on it to make it look like stone. On here, I'd like to point out that behind here you can see where we've shown some cars, a truck there, and a pedestrian over there, and just kind of get the scale of what those are what the height of the railing is compared to those people and the vehicles. Concept 2, as I mentioned, is very similar, only that in here we've eliminated the metal railing on top of the concrete base and just have a solid concrete base for the full 4.5 feet above the sidewalk. And again, you can see what here you can see the tops of the car and a little bit more of the vehicle and the head of the person going across there. Moving on to this is what the existing bridge looks like today. You can see the stone